What?
Consent. What that means is like, it's not being something. All right. Happy October. Can you believe it's October at this point? I spent all weekend putting up as many Halloween decorations in my yard as I could. And I put up so many that I blew out the circuit in my yard, right? So I felt very proud of that. Like I put up so many decorations that I caused the power to go out for my house, right? I was like, oh, it's like a Clark Griswold moment, like from National Lampoon. So I was very proud of myself. So now none of it lights up and I have to call an electrician, but you know, that's okay. But, lots of candy this weekend because we're getting there. And then it rained for a minute. In the middle of my soccer game, it rained like heavily. We were all drenched and it was great fun. So kind of a fun weekend, I suppose. I'm just happy it's October, my favorite month of the year. I hope everyone is hanging in there doing well. I gave you a homework assignment and I want to start there, right? I hope you found the little case studies interesting. They, again, are true stories. So I think that makes them all the more interesting. So what I'd like you to do, just find a couple of people around you and I'd like you to share what you came up with. If you have different answers, you can kind of talk about it a little bit. If you have time, share the one you came up with on the back. But I'll give you a few minutes and then we'll talk about it together and I'll collect them. So go ahead, find a few people, see what you came up with, and we'll go from there.
The guy takes his trauma.
All right, the byproxy is what I wanted to say. I just can't remember. Yeah.
I've got two.
I knew it was my cousin, but I just stuck out about what the byproxy term is called.
Yeah.
So it's possible. Something.
Oh, I guess what
Was it soon? It was. Yes, that's exactly. Anyway. Oh, and
Did this come from this side this time?
I think I started over there, so it's going. It should be going.
No, I got that. Because yeah, I noticed.
I missed the backwards.
Wait, you know, two big cabinet.
But it's because it's like I worry about these two.
All right.
Just another two, then we'll talk together. Just talking about the homework.
Almost for every brain wish.
Try to leave that out.
This guy, so I don't know this guy, I know. You gotta like describe like. But this guy.
He died. He died. But also.
About our side. Yeah, she got symptoms of all like a fear and he is. You know,
What is one?
All right, everyone, does anyone need more time? A lot of people. What I want to do is just talk about these really quickly, and then I'll collect them from you. I hope you had fun creating a little scenario. Think of anyone in your life or like a show, but let's go through these together. What about number one? Does anyone want to share their thoughts on what they put for Brian for number one? Any thoughts? Yeah. Okay, and why?
That given the psychological trauma or whatever you want to call it, and then converted that into the
Yeah.
loss of feeling this and burn his leg.
Yeah, right. It fits really well, right? And again, this is a real like story of somebody that went through this. So whenever you convert something emotional or psychological into a physical symptom like this, conversion disorder, I think of that word, you're converting it from one to the other. I think that fits in best. How about Blanca? Any thoughts about Blanca? Anybody? Well, let me see if somebody else wants to jump in. I love it. Thank you. Anybody else want to talk about Blanca? No, you did. Kim, I mean Blanca. Kim's actually moving forward. Anybody? Come on, somebody, number two. Thank you.
I wrote her down as Munchausen by proxy.
Yeah, why? Why did you think that?
She's doing something to her daughter. Because every time she leaves her, it gets better.
Yeah, really sad, right? And this is one of the ways we were talking about this last time, that sometimes you can see it manifest this way. When the parent leaves, the child gets better. When they're there, they get worse. It could be a big red flag for like a nurse or like a social worker or whatnot. But yeah, so Munchausen by proxy. And as a quick side note, I heard a couple of groups talking about this. Remember that factitious and Munchausen's are actually the same thing, right? Factitious disorder is the technical, like psychological name. Munchausen's is the like popular name. So if you wrote either one of them, that's totally fine, though I would definitely say this is by proxy, which means you're doing it to another person. Okay. How about number three with Tom? Anyone willing to share your thoughts on Tom, our Chicago lawyer? Yeah, thank you.
He has anxiety
Okay.
because he can't shake the paranoia that he has some kind of cancer or terminal illness.
Yeah, right. Going from doctor to doctor to doctor, right? Trying to confirm the worst. Very typical of this. It's not, just as a quick differential, and this is something that I think is great to start thinking about, like what are the things that are similar but not quite. So he doesn't have like a sexual or neurological symptom, so it's not that somatic symptom disorder. It's more this, right? The illness, anxiety, and that worry and preoccupation with it being some type of cancer, something really serious. How about the last one? This one could be Kim, right? But any thoughts on number four? Anyone want to take number four? Anyone who hasn't jumped in? Yeah, thank you. Love it.
Isn't he just straight up Munchausen syndrome?
Yeah.
Because there's like that, people are really used to a tragedy.
Yeah.
Need for attention.
Yeah, right. Like completely making the whole thing up. Right. And I think I shared with you last time that Kim made up an entire pregnancy and we threw her a baby shower and everything. Like, I don't know what she did with all that stuff. Right. But making up the entire thing, right, to get attention. Right. It's very much like factitious or Munchausen's. Either one would be totally fine. Again, they're the same thing. Yeah.
I actually read the actual case online before doing this paper. Yeah, so I saw it, I was reading it, and then I went back and did this. I was like, oh wait,
Yeah.
I promise I wasn't cheating, but I
that's
had
fine.
read it before.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because when I was reading the thing online, it said that she also had Munchausen by proxy,
Mhm.
which because like she had been treating for other children
Yeah.
that before. So I that, but
Yeah, and I love that you had read it before. Again, these are real stories. Like they don't, it's much harder to see these things like obviously on the first take. A lot of the time people think they're physical things, right? Or take them at face value, but especially stuff like this, when like you're doing it chronically, like it, it does start to become obvious later. And I love that you read it before. That's great. And I look forward to reading what you came up with for the last one. If you want to go ahead and make sure your name is on those and pass those forward, I will take them from you and then we'll keep going. Thank you. I'm gonna rip those out of your hand. Thank you. All right, so a couple other thoughts in this chapter, and then we'll move on. But there's a kind of one other side to this that's a little less dramatic, but it's also there, and then some causes and treatment. And I forgot to mention, I have to end at 10:45 today. My daughter lost a brace, like a bracket fell off. It's just like dangling there awkwardly, and I was able to get her in, and so I have to do that for her so she doesn't like end up swallowing it or something crazy like that. She's all like, I have to go to school like this. She's like, it's just dangling here, and I'm like, just do your best for like 2 hours. That's it, right? So anyway, so I have to end a little early for that. Sorry about that. I'm sure you're really mad at me for having a little extra time today, right? Like just pissed, right? Okay. Anyway. Right? I paid good money for this, right? Okay. I'll try and make it up for you in like the time that we do that. So be extra excited about these topics before then. Okay, so some causes and treatments of the things that we just talked about, right? So a lot of them are due to stress and trauma, which is why we covered this after the last chapter, because there's a lot of stress and trauma related stuff, right? People have a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, or experience a traumatic event. And then it manifests itself in physical symptoms, right? That's very like kind of the core of what we talked about. But there's also some behavioral and cognitive explanations, like conditioning. If people get rewarded for a behavior, they're more likely to do it. So if you are sick and everyone feels bad for you and you get attention and you feel like you matter and people care, that could become a little bit addicting for people, right? Reinforcing, and then people do it more and more. And so we see a lot of like stress, trauma, and like rewarding conditioning taking place. And when it comes to treatment, especially for things like conversion disorder and somatic symptom disorder, people aren't going to go to therapy. They're going to go to a medical doctor, right? Like if you woke up blind or you lost sensation in your hand, you're not going to be like, oh, I need to go to therapy, right? Like you're going to go to a medical doctor. And what typically happens is it doesn't present in the same way as like a traditional medical injury. And so there's often some kind of red flags that pop up, and then you might be referred to a therapist, right? And so people oftentimes will seek multiple opinions, like, no, this is something physical. I'm going to go to another doctor and another and another. But we can consider things like exposure therapy or just therapy in general, sometimes medication if this is something really chronic for someone. But like with conversion disorder, once you address the root of the trauma, that feeling or sensation that you've lost will come back. With illness anxiety disorder, it's looking at, what are the symptoms and trying to educate yourself so you don't keep misinterpreting things, right? There's a lot of like therapy stuff going on here, finding the root of when it started. And what was that first time that you were reinforced for this behavior and develop that pattern? And how can we find other ways for you to get attention without having to fake illness and so on? So a lot of stress, trauma, therapy related kind of stuff to treat it. There are some other little things that the book talks about. And these are called psychophysiological disorders, just to keep the names nice and confusing, right? Psychosomatic or psychophysiological. Psyche is mind and soma was body, right? So these are mind, body disorders or illnesses. And the things that are up here are incredibly common. These are very commonly occurring psychophysiological or psychosomatic things, right? I guarantee a lot of you have struggled with things like insomnia because you're stressed or have a lot of anxiety, maybe migraines or like TMJ related like headaches, all right? Hypertension is high blood pressure or heart disease. All of these things up here are often made worse by stress. When you're stressed out, you might get stomach aches or even ulcers, hives. My daughter, Paisley, fish and dip, right? She, a couple of years ago, got hives because she was stressed about something. Like, you're 7, like, what do you have that much stress about? She developed hives on her skin. They were all itchy and we thought it was a rash, and it turned out it was like completely psychological. It was during COVID. And we had gone back to school and she was so stressed about it, she gave herself hives, right? And this is where we see some interplay between like psychological factors and physical factors. So you're actually experiencing a headache or high blood pressure or whatnot. It's just being made worse by things like stress, right? And again, these are really, really common. I have a lot of like TMJ, like jaw related issues. I don't realize it, but I clench my jaw a lot. And what happens then is all the muscles in my neck get tight and it gives me headaches, right? Really commonly related to like stress and anxiety. And so that's what these things are up here, seeing stress play out in like physical ways in our body on a much lesser level. Again, a lot of these are very, very common. Some kind of side notes about these things. Your personality style can contribute heavily. We talked about this a little bit back in chapter 5, that everybody's got a different stress threshold. Everybody has a different way of relating to the world. And people who are a little bit more like competitive, ambitious, hard-driven, stereotypically what we would call like a type A personality, tend to struggle with those psychophysiological things more than people who are a little more like laid back and relaxed and mellow. Now, the idea behind this came from a famous study, and it's very, very flawed. There was a study done back in the 70s about heart issues as it related to smoking and as it related to stress. And so the whole idea of like people being type A versus type B is way oversimplified. But we do see that your personality plays a role. If you're like the kind who's like, I'm going to conquer it and do it as fast and hard as possible because it's there, versus like, there's no hurry, it's not going anywhere, I'm more like mellow and relaxed. So your personality style can definitely influence the way you experience stress and how it affects your body. Again, a little oversimplified, but still there. Yeah. Sure. So different types on that, like Myers-Briggs typology indicator. Yeah, whether you're more like maybe intuitive versus feeling, you're more sensing versus perceiving. So like in general, your personality is going to affect the way you respond to everyone, right? And in this case, we're talking specifically about but yeah, for sure, right? Your type is going to dictate a lot of stuff. Couple other little side notes. Stress and the immune system, right? So, right, you coughed at the perfect time for that. No, thank you. Right, coughing is the worst these days. I'm always afraid of coughing now. Like ever since COVID hit, I'm like, I never want to cough anymore. Everyone stares at you. But psychoneuroimmunology is the study of stress and the immune system and health all intertwined with each other. And if you've ever noticed, when you are stressed out, you tend to get sick. Or get sick like right after your period of intense stress. It's like finals week, everybody is sick, right? Like it just happens that way. And the reason for that is that stress affects your immune system. When you're stressed out, all of that energy that could be going to fight off things like stress or like, things in your body is going to stress instead. And so what that means is it makes us more vulnerable to illness, right? It can also make illnesses lying dormant in our body come to the surface faster. Right. And so what we see is that stress and health are very linked to each other, and that our health can be very drastically affected when we have high levels of stress in our life. Right. Especially, again, like tends to be common around like finals week, around the holidays, when there's a lot of kind of global stress for people. Finally, some things that we can do to help reduce stress and kind of help reduce some of these psychophysiological illnesses. I made a whole big list up here of things that fall into the realm of like behavioral medicine. So interventions that we can have to help, right? And there's a ton of them. And I love some of these. I added these at the end, apps like Calm. I don't know if any of you have used the Calm app, but it's amazing. I love this app. I'll put on like the soundscapes in the background, or sometimes they have like sleep stories, which are like meant to help you fall asleep and you listen to them before bed. There's one called Headspace that is more like cognitive behavioral based. Things like aromatherapy and mindfulness, right? There's all these things that you can do to try and help yourself calm down, right? Mindfulness is really interesting, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about like self-care, and I had a little like extra credit for you with that I'll talk about too. Yeah.
When you use those apps, do they actually help you? I always get apps for them like on YouTube.
Yeah. Do they help like in general, you mean? I like the Calm app because of the things like the soundscapes. Like I'll just put it on in the background, but I use a lot of the ones on YouTube, like the oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of them. What are they called there? They're the ones where it's like rain. It's just they're soundscapes, right? Basically. But it's like it's raining in the background or snowing in the background. And I think that the idea behind it is something that's just peaceful and calming to you. But they do have a lot of cool like sleep stories and relaxations and guided meditations on there. Some of them are free, and then some of them you have to pay the like little bit for the app. But I think it's a really fun app, and some insurance companies will give it to you for free. Like Kaiser lets you have access to it for free if you ask, which is kind of cool. So it depends on the company. I think they're helpful. Does anyone else use them at all? Yeah.
But I went to the lake last year with my cousins, and then the room I was sleeping in, little cousin sleeping like taking that before.
Yeah.
So they left the little like white noise like machine in there.
Yeah.
And I woke up, I was like, man, I've never slept this great.
Yeah, the white noise is kind of what it is. Yeah, or green noise or whatever. There's a bunch of different types of noise that you can put in the background to kind of help you calm down. Yeah.
What about if you're like, if these don't work because you think they won't work?
Sure.
I guess that's a thing.
Yeah, oh, for sure. If you think something isn't going to work, it probably won't, right? It's kind of the reverse of the placebo effect. If you think something's going to help you, it tends to. If you think it's not, it probably won't. And some of these can take practice, like things like meditation and guided relaxation things. They take practice to get into, right? Your mind gets distracted, you think about other things, and it can make it a little bit hard to stick with it. But the more you do them, the more they tend to be helpful for you. I have one. I don't know if any of you want to do like a guided relaxation exercise? I have one, yes. Okay. Right. I just needed one, really. I mean, two is great, but one is fine. So I have this one. It's probably my favorite one. I don't know why I felt vulnerable saying that, right? Like if you didn't like it, it reflected on me. I didn't create it, but it's called a walk in the forest or a forest walk. And I tend to really love the outdoors and the forest. So for me, I like this one. If you're more of like a beach person, maybe look up a beach one, or like, like if you find an environment that you like, it tends to be better. But the one that I have for you, I want to say it's about 8 minutes. And I'll share it with you, and try and get as comfortable as you can. I know we're in like an environment where you're surrounded by people you don't know very well, and the desks aren't super comfortable, but do your best to get comfortable. Try it, and they're going to have you like close your eyes and try and visualize. And the whole idea behind these is that it helps you to calm down. If you can calm your body, it calms your mind. And if you can calm your mind, it calms your body. And it can be hard to find time for these things, but I think it's helpful. So I'll play it for you. Again, it's about like 8 minutes or so. Just anybody, right? It's easy to get sleepy with those, right? But the whole idea is that you take the time to calm yourself down, right? And you have this guided relaxation. There's so many of these online for free, and that was just one I found on YouTube called Forest Walk. It's one of my favorites, but there's tons of them. And we once had a poster that said the time to relax is when you don't have time for it, right? Which is a nice thought, but it makes it tricky, right? But trying to find ways like that to calm down, whether it's meditations or relaxations, or even just taking a couple of deep breaths. And again, it takes practice. Like halfway through that, I was like, oh, I forgot to set my fantasy football lineup for tonight. Right. And I was like, stop, later, right? Like, and it's okay, right? When you have those thoughts, you just kind of try to push them aside and stay in the forest, right? In the forest, I was thinking about who I'm starting and sitting tonight. And then I was like, no, right? And that's okay, right? So the more you do these, the better that we tend to get at them. But a lot of these things can be very helpful for calming down, along with something called mindfulness training. And our health center actually made a video for me on mindfulness. And I'd like to just kind of share that with you. So if you are on I'll talk about this here in a second. If you're on our course website, I'll let it load here. Well, it got tired of waiting for me. Hold on one second. If you're on our course website, there is a video that the health center made about what mindfulness is and how to use it. They give a bunch of examples of it as well. We'll see if it decides to load for us here or not. Yeah. Hold on one second. Log back in. 15 clicks later. Okay, so all the way down here underneath all of our class recordings, I'm going to make this viewable for you here now. But there's this mindfulness training video that they made, and it's really like accessible. And so what you can do is listen to this, and then they gave you a bunch of little ideas of how to use mindfulness. It's a very like nice idea, right, for taking care of yourself and calming down and being present in the moment. We talked a little bit about mindfulness earlier in the semester. I also want to offer one other thing to you, and this went out, I was creating the announcement and I sent it out and then recalled it really quickly. Sorry for that. But I wanted to offer you one more extra credit opportunity, and it's going to pop up at 11:15, but it's related to self-care. Okay, now self-care is something that is like very, very popular. And it's this whole concept of taking care of yourself, right? And so what's going to pop up for you at 11:15 is there's a little link here to an article about self-care that I'd like you to read. And then what I'd like you to do, if you want to, this is extra credit, so you don't have to do it, but it's worth up to 5 points of extra credit. And I don't tend to do a lot of that, so I would take advantage if you're interested. But what you can do is read this article. And then I have a list here of self-care activities. There's a ton of them. So if you click on this list, it's going to bring up like a bunch of different ideas. And if so there's ones that are like emotional and mental self-care, physical and health related, social, spiritual, and then miscellaneous. And there's an absolute ton of ideas here, right? If you're looking for an idea. And so what you can do is you can pick 5 of those different options. And I'd like you to take a picture of each of the ones that you do, right? So each of the 5 self-care activities, and you're going to be submitting that right here where it says extra credit link. And so let's say you decide to read a book, right? You take a picture of like the book or like some part of that activity. You do not have to be in the picture. I'd actually prefer if not all of you was in the picture, but it's up to you. Try and be creative with these, like spend some time taking the picture, make sure it's like a good picture and not blurry. The images are of any element of it. Be creative and have fun with it. You don't have to overthink it. It could be as simple as something very small that's on this list or something a little more elaborate. But you're going to be uploading them here. So you could take it with your phone. You could take it with a camera. It's totally up to you. And you're giving me just a little description, a couple of sentences about what you did and how you felt and so on. Yeah.
So, just like, I think that I could do this with another person.
Yeah.
maybe, like,
Sure. Yeah, you could. Or like part of you doing it, like for example, like if you went and got like a manicure or pedicure, maybe it's just of like the environment, or maybe it's of your toes. Like it doesn't have to be you necessarily, whatever it might be. This should be something that's kind of like a fun thing to do, right? These are ways of taking care of yourself, right? And as a side note for this, like I'm writing, I can't remember if I told you this or not. I'm actually writing a book about this, and I'm collecting all of these examples to use in the book. So there's a possibility I asked some of you if I could use your pictures in that book, if that's cool to you or not. And you're welcome to say no, of course. But I have like 50 examples that I've collected from students over the last couple of years. And so that's why I have this list. Like I have a bunch of them that I would love to get pictures of and include work from all of you if you're interested. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. It's a self-care, and there's an article that kind of defines it for you, but it's literally anything that makes you feel better. So I have an ongoing joke with my therapist introduced me to the idea of self-care like 3 years ago, and I rolled my eyes at her. I was like, self-care, right? Like, I was like, how about self-cake? And she's all like, well, eating a piece of cake could be self-care. And I was like, oh, then I am great at self-care, like nailed it, right? And so now it's like this ongoing joke we have of like, don't forget to engage in self-cake this weekend. I was like, I will, don't worry, I will. Self-cake, I can self-cake instead of self-care. So, yeah, I mean, it can literally be anything that makes you feel better, from like getting like a special drink to taking a nap to going on a walk to petting an animal, like a pet that you have. And so read the article and then take 5 of these, take pictures of them, and you'll upload it. And this is, again, completely optional. It's worth up to 5 points of extra credit. Okay. Are there any questions about this? This will pop up at 11:15. And so at that point, it'll be available. You have a week to do it. So it'll be due next Monday. So you have a whole week to do that. One more thing really quickly. I know I told you I'm gonna end in a few minutes here a little early. So what we'll do next time is we have finished the chapter on this chapter here, chapter 8. So next class we'll start chapter 6, which is related to mood. So we'll look at depression and mania and bipolar disorder. And then on Monday next week, so a week from today, we're going to have a guest speaker coming in to talk about suicide prevention. It's our health center that's going to come in, and they're pretty great, and they give you a certificate for completing it. They oftentimes bring little gifts too, like either chapstick or like stress sticks that you can hit each other with. I'm just kidding. So I hope that you will be here for that. I think it's a really helpful like presentation, and they're going to be covering chapter 7 for me related to suicidality. So next time we'll do chapter 6. I'll stop here again. That announcement will pop up. Sorry to end a little bit early. The fun of having braces, or children with braces, I guess. I don't know. But I will see you all on Wednesday, and we'll pick up with chapter 6. You too. Thank you.